take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Wednesday, September 9th, 2015, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us. This next 2 hours of news, interviews, music, comedy, analysis, data, and more. And we are jam-packed with data today on today's show. But before we get to that, let's make our introduction. We got a guest in the studio. My friend Stephanie Bishop is here. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Russ. I'm so happy to be here in Portland with you. How are you?
I'm very happy you're here, too. It's always better doing the show when you got someone to talk to. And in hour two, those of you folks sticking around for Toker Talk Radio, Stephanie and I are going to go into depth about mass incarceration in this country. The political establishment is beginning to wake up to the epidemic of mass incarceration in this country. And you'll tell us a little bit about what's going on as far as some of the different angles on that.
I can't wait.
All right, we'll get to that. Also on today's show, we've got a guest joining us, Bob Blake, not Robert Blake, not the old Beretta actor. I imagine there's a lot of Robert Blakes out there. But this Bob Blake is a hemp farmer in Oregon who wants to talk to us about the medical aspects of industrial hemp, specifically the idea of growing hemp in mass quantities in order to harvest it for CBD, cannabidiol, that is so beneficial to epileptics and other people with seizure disorders. So we'll get into that, talk a little bit about CBD and the viability of industrial hemp for that use. Also on the show today and behind the headlines, we're going to take a look at a report coming out from CBS News that shows that teens are using e-cigarettes to vaporize marijuana. And in other news, teens are injecting oranges with alcohol to sneak them into class. But we'll get into that in Behind the Headlines. Also, in drug war data mining, we've got that report from Washington State. By law, under Initiative 502, every couple of years, they have to do an implementation report. So this is the latest data on their sales, how much tax they've raised, whether or not the kids are using more marijuana in Washington State. We'll get into that in drug war data mining. And then at the end of the show, we'll have even more data for you, inspired by a fellow by the name of Randy. That's right, Randy Philbrick is the new head of the brand new Project Sam chapter in Oregon. That's right, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, Kevin Sabet's anti-legalization organization, has finally opened up an office in Oregon. Check the clock here. Oh yeah, about 2 years too late. Anyway, we'll talk about some of the things he's inspired me to look up through some of the crazy things he claimed on his Twitter feed under the Sam Oregon banner. In other words, we're going to take a look at data. We're going to take a look at facts. We're going to look at what really happened with marijuana legalization over the past couple of years. We'll be digging into the Monitoring the Future survey as well as the National Survey on Drug Use and Health. And then stay tuned for hour two in Toker Talk Radio. Like I said, Stephanie's joining us to talk about mass incarceration. At 4:20, we've got Gordon Green calling in, and he's got some K-pop for us, Korean pop music, for our daily Toker tunes, for our Irie Wednesday World Music Day, so stay tuned for that. We'll also take your calls toll-free at 84-420 Radio. That's 844-207-2346. And we're going to take a break so we can pay some of the bills. When we come back, we have got the 420 radio news for you. In the headlines, we've got medical marijuana from Mexico. We've got another tribe legalizing in the Northeast. We got a tax break for marijuana buyers in Colorado, a Kansas Supreme Court case on a Wichita pot ordinance, and more information from the state of Ohio, where the Secretary of State is investigating Responsible Ohio's signature gathering. We've got the latest updates on that. Like I said, it's a jam-packed show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsors.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
This is 420radio.org.
Imagine life without taxes. Let New Era Certified Public Accountants, NewEraCPAs.com, handle your Cannabis 280E and tax strategy. Get your business prepared with New Era CPA's Cannabis Finance Bootcamp. NewEraCPAs.com. With years of experience in the industry, we are one of the nation's leading accounting firms for growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies from Washington to California. NewEraCPAs.com. Step into the future every Tuesday night with Electric Bob's Boogaloo, our weekly electronic music jam. Electric Bob brings you the latest house, trance, dubstep, and other electronic music from the freshest DJs and producers. It's every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, with replays weekends at 11 p.m. on 420radio.org.
Hi, I'm Alex Rogers, producer of the 4th Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference, the OMMBC. There have been a lot of recent changes to Oregon cannabis laws. Recreational sales start October 1st, new licensing from the state, and changes to medical marijuana. Are you prepared? Join us at the downtown Portland Hilton September 12th and 13th with the industry's top cannabis experts, political leaders, exhibitors, and nightly networking events. For more information, join us online or give us a call. The OMMBC. Be part of history.
It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Replays of 420 Radio News are embeddable and shareable from our SoundCloud page at soundcloud.com/RadicalRuss. Now, the marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, September 9th, 2015. An 8-year-old girl who suffers 400 daily epileptic seizures will become Mexico's first consumer of medical cannabis after the health ministry granted her an exemption to its marijuana ban on Tuesday. A substance banned by Mexico's General Law of Health, cannabidiol, or CBD, is believed to alleviate epileptic fits which characterize Graciela Elizalde's severe form of epilepsy known as Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. The girl, whose parents call her Grace, wears diapers, crawls, and moves in a wheelchair. She has not spoken a word since saying mommy as an infant. Last month, Judge Martin Santos gave Grace's desperate parents permission to import the drug, called Epidiolex, from Norway or the United States. This special permit has been granted only after multiple unsuccessful treatments for Grace's condition, including brain surgery. However, while the health ministry has allowed this exception, President Enrique Pena Nieto opposes any legalization. The Passamaquoddy tribe has signed a letter of intent with a medical marijuana management and consulting company to build a cultivation facility in northeastern Maine. Denver-based Monarch America Incorporated announced last week it plans to design and manage a cutting-edge marijuana cultivation facility in an existing 35,000-square-foot building in Princeton. Chief Billy Nicholas confirmed Tuesday that the tribe signed the letter of intent. He said it wants to use the facility to make industrial hemp, not medical marijuana. Nicholas said the tribe will consider expanding operations as the laws surrounding marijuana change. He said he hopes the tribal government will reach an agreement with Monarch within the next month and that the creation of the facility could provide 15 jobs to start. A one-time tax break is coming for buyers of recreational marijuana in Colorado. Under the state's Taxpayer Bill of Rights, voters must approve new taxes, and in 2013, 25% taxes on recreational marijuana passed. But under the law, any new taxes have to be waived and refunded if the state collects more than projections that were given to voters. Last year, marijuana taxes totaled $58 million, while the projection was $70 million. But because overall tax collections exceeded projections, the state must ask voters for permission to keep the money. Also, taxes have to revert to zero on the first day of the new fiscal year, so state lawmakers passed a measure for a one-day tax waiver. That day is September 16th, when a 10% sales tax and 15% excise tax won't be collected on recreational marijuana purchases. The Kansas Supreme Court will hear Wichita's ordinance case at 9 a.m. next Thursday. In April, voters in Wichita approved a marijuana ordinance. The ordinance would ease penalties for possessing small amounts of marijuana. The ordinance does not legalize marijuana. It makes first-time possession a criminal infraction with a $50 fine. Under state law, it is a misdemeanor punishable by a fine of up to $2,500 and a year in jail. The issues to be addressed include whether the Wichita ordinance is null and void because it conflicts with state law, because it was not filed with the Wichita City Clerk as required by law, it does not contain an ordaining clause as required by law, and it is predominantly administrative, not legislative in nature, and therefore incapable of being enacted through the initiative and referendum process authorized by law. A special investigator looking into the group behind the marijuana legalization issue on the November ballot in Ohio has clarified the scope of his investigation following a lawsuit filed in federal court. Attorneys for Special Investigator David Bowers withdrew all subpoenas issued to Responsible Ohio Executive Director Ian James, his company, the Strategy Network, and his employees in a letter sent Tuesday. The subpoenas sought all information and data related to Responsible Ohio's campaign to legalize marijuana through a proposed constitutional amendment. Ohio Secretary of State John Husted initiated the investigation after Responsible Ohio claimed to turn in about 35,000 signatures, more than his office counted, in a group's attempt to qualify for the state ballot. Last week, an unnamed Responsible Ohio supporter sued Husted, Bowers, James, Responsible Ohio, and the Strategy Network over the subpoenas in U.S. Southern District Court of Ohio. The supporter argued releasing his personal information as required by the subpoena violated his constitutional rights to free speech and freedom from unreasonable search and seizure. Responsible Ohio sided with the unnamed supporter and filed a cross-claim. New subpoenas were issued Wednesday that allow personal identifying information to be redacted. The supporter dropped his request for a hearing. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, September 9th, 2015.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
Oregon has joined Washington and Colorado in legalizing marijuana. We're Portland NORML, the national organization for the reform of marijuana laws chapter in Portland, Oregon. Join us as we celebrate the launch of an exciting new era in marijuana freedom in Oregon. Our job has just begun. Powerful interests want to white out the most important portions of Oregon's legalization law. By joining Portland NORML, you add your voice to the thousands who voted for Measure 91 and want it to be implemented as written. The people have spoken. Now it is time for the legislature to obey the will of the people. Find out more about Portland NORML at portlandnormal.org. Attend our monthly membership meetings on the fourth Saturday of the month. See our website for more details. Portland NORML, ensuring responsible adult marijuana consumers are afforded the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities as beer drinkers.
This is Cannabis Facts from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org, supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. In 1937, the second most prescribed medicine, marijuana, was banned. It wasn't about marijuana. The paper, oil, and chemical industries lobbied to end hemp farming. No longer labor-intensive, an acre of hemp produced more quality paper than 4 acres of trees. Plastics and fibers could be produced from a plant. Hemp can even produce 10 times the energy of today's ethanol. As marijuana prohibition ends, many states now allow farmers to again grow hemp. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to process America's hemp crop at hempinc.com.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details. Today in Behind the Headlines, we take a look at a story, teens using e-cigarettes to vape pot. You got to do the finger quotes for vape. Apparently they don't understand that vaping is now a verb. I think it's in the Oxford English Dictionary, as a matter of fact. But Stephanie Pappas reporting for CBS News on livescience.com as well. A study coming out of Connecticut, a survey of teens that finds nearly 1/5 of high school students who use e-cigarettes have tried putting pot into the devices. Now, they explain that e-cigarettes are vaporizers, which those of us in the marijuana community are far more familiar with than the mainstream is, even when it comes to the e-cigarettes, the vaporizing of nicotine oil, juices and whatever. But they're incredibly popular. Last visit I took back to Idaho, counting the number of vape stores for e-cigarettes was like counting the number of dispensaries on Colfax in Denver. It was just like, look, vape store, vape store, vape store, everywhere you look. It's become very popular. It's something that public health experts are worried about, given that we've got cigarette smoking down to the lowest recorded levels in history among teenagers, but they fear some of them may be instead taking up e-cigarettes. Now, if someone is going to be smoking or using nicotine, I would argue that the e-cigarette may be the safer way for them to go than using the burning cigarette that's got all those carcinogens. But there's still not a lot of evidence and a lot of study on this yet. But what they found is that of these high school students, they surveyed them, they found that 13.4% of teens had used e-cigarettes in the month prior to being surveyed, 3 times the level from 2013. So we've tripled e-cigarette use by teens from 2013 to 2014, from 4.5% to 13.4%. And they say that in conducting the surveys, they'd heard that teens were modifying the e-cigarettes to use them to vape marijuana. And this is not to mention the vape pens that are specifically made for marijuana, the cloud pens and so forth. But these are the e-cigs that they can get in convenience stores and have easy access to, and them modifying them, tweaking them a little bit to be able to use either leaf or bud or more likely cannabis oils. So they added some questions to their survey of these Connecticut high school students. And according to the answers, 27.9% said they had tried e-cigarettes at some point. So that's, 30, getting toward 30% had tried it at some point. And separately, 29.2% had tried marijuana. Interesting that you got a higher response of young people that have tried marijuana than e-cigarettes. And 18.8% reported they'd tried both e-cigarettes and marijuana at some point. Of that group, the group that had tried both e-cigs and marijuana, they found 26.5% of them had used the e-cigarettes for marijuana. So 3 out of 4 of them that had tried marijuana did it the old-fashioned way. They smoked a joint or bong or whatever. But 1 out of 4, a little more than 1 out of 4, had tried using it in a vape pen, which means that 18% of all e-cigarette users had used the devices for marijuana, and that's where they get the 1 out of 5 number. So they worry about this, of course, because they're saying among the dual users, 29% tried dried cannabis leaves, 23% tried vaporized hash oil, and 15% had tried wax. So hashes and oils have higher THC concentrations. We all are aware of that. And the researchers said they don't know whether e-cigarettes may lure teens to try pot, or whether the devices are just a new way to use marijuana for teens who would have smoked it anyway. But to me, as someone who's reported on this now for 10 years, this reminds me of the scare stories that you'll get every new school year that pops up. One year it's butt chugging, right? The kids are going to be putting beer bongs and chugging vodka in their rectums, right? And then another year it's the vodka tampon, right? The girls are going to be using these tampons soaked in alcohol to get high. And then another year back, hell, even going back to when I was in school, it was the syringe to inject an orange with vodka so that you could sneak that in, right? But these researchers point out that they don't know how frequently the teens are vaping, whether this reflects larger national trends, etc. But finally, at like the penultimate paragraph, they finally get to the point that I always make in these scenarios, and that is, the researcher said, vaping pot appeals to teens in part because it's harder to detect than smoking. Quote, when you vape cannabis, the smell is way less pungent and strong than it is when you smoke pot. Everybody kind of knows that characteristic pot odor, end quote. And yes, exactly. This is what I keep trying to point out to all these prohibitionists who are scared of the BHO, the waxes, the concentrates, and now the surreptitious nature of being able to vape these products. And that is, you brought it on yourself. You brought it on yourself. The prohibition is what motivates the smugglers and the manufacturers to create the most potent product they can because of the premium on space and sales. You want to get the most bang for your buck. And it forces the users to start adopting technologies to cover up their criminal activity. Not to say that these things never would have developed if pot was totally legal, but what made them so popular so fast, just like synthetic pot, is people trying to get away with it.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Stephanie, what's wrong with you? Why won't you think of the children?
You know, I try really hard to think about the children. I get up every day and I think about the children. And I think about all the kids that are in jail right now. And I think about all the kids coming out of college that don't have jobs right now.
Yeah. How about those kids with their parents that are locked up as well?
Oh, yeah.
We'll get to all of that. We're going to talk mass incarceration at the top of the next hour. Stay tuned. Drug war data mining is next.
Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that.
The Fingerboard Extension has fretted instruments to enhance your creativity. It has new and used guitars and banjos from beginning to high class. The Fingerboard Extension has National Resophonic, Husson Dalton, Larrabee, Heritage and Recording King guitars, and Mike Ramsey, Wildwood, Gold Tone, and Recording King banjos. The Fingerboard Extension also has drum stuff, used gear, and parts. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension, downtown Corvallis, Oregon at 120 Northwest 2nd, or check out the inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com and reverb.com. You're listening to 420 Radio. Listen Mondays at 1 p.m. Pacific for The Human Solution, podcasting at thsintl.org. The purpose of The Human Solution is to support each other through the trials we face as cannabis consumers and spread educational information about cannabis. Check our online listings for The Human Solution with Joe Grumbine from thsintl.org. Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz. Arguing for the end of adult marijuana prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It is even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more in this edition of Drug War Data Mining. Today in the Drug War Data Mines, we have got the biannual report, the first one issued under Washington's I-502, the initiative that legalized marijuana in the Evergreen State in 2012. By law, they're required every 2 years to come up with a report detailing how the implementation of I-502 has proceeded. That report is now available online, and there are some great data points to take out of this. The first one comes from their Exhibit 12, which is a table of non-medical cannabis retail sales by county. This is for the fiscal year 2015, so it starts July 2014 through June 2015. And that, July is when their legal sales started last year in Washington State. So it's the first full year of sales. And it breaks down the total sales, the per capita sales, the average sales among retailers, and how many retailers they have. Now, the first thing that jumps out to all of us here is the most total sales in any county in Washington State was in King County, where in the first year they sold $48 million worth of non-medical marijuana product. $48 million. By far the county with the greatest amount of sales, but we must understand it's the county with the greatest amount of population. That's Seattle. That's your major Seattle metro area, and they have 34 retailers. When you break it down per capita, they sold $24.39 per person. $24 worth of weed per person in King County, which was nowhere near the top of the per capita sales. Who was at the top of the per capita sales? Klickitat County. Now, if Klickitat County doesn't ring a bell to you, you have to take a look at your Washington County's map. You will find it is on the southern border, south central
Washington State, you could say, right across the river from the Dalles and Hood River and other Oregon communities. They have just 3 retailers there in Klickitat County, but they sold $65.80 worth of marijuana per person in Klickitat County. Although it's probably not the people in Klickitat County, it's the people coming across the river from the state of Oregon. $65 per person. And the number 2 was Clark County, $56.93 per person. Clark County is right across the river from Portland, Oregon. It's Vancouver, Washington, primarily, where they have 7 retailers total. Now, for their per capita sales of $56.93, they also turned out to be second only to King County in total sales at $24.6 million. So consider, it took 34 retailers in King County to do twice the business of 7 retailers in Clark County. Almost 5 times the number of stores to get double the sales. That's how much the Portland marijuana market is affected, Clark County. Now, if we look at this for average sales among the retailers, that's where Clark County comes out absolutely on top with $3.5 million per store. Again, they got 7 stores, $3.5 million per store. King County, again, where Seattle is, only got to $1.4 million per store. They weren't even the top count, the second best county per store. Second best county per store was Benton County at $2.8 million. Benton County in Washington State. Where is Benton? Got to find Benton on my little map here. I should look that up first, shouldn't I have? It's probably sitting right in front of me and I can't see it. Benton County. Anyway, Benton County, another southern Washington border county with Oregon. So it shows you how much the cross-border traffic in legal marijuana sales has affected Washington State. Now, another set of numbers that are very telling here are the rates of use among youth in Washington State. And Exhibit 15 of their document shows that, and this is their words, cannabis use and access among students in 6th through 12th grades have changed little from 2002 through the most recent survey in 2014. In contrast, the perception of the risk of harm of regular use has generally declined since 2004. Now, let me sort that out for you in Project Sam speak. For the longest time, the anti-pot people at Project Sam and others out there have warned that one of the problems of legalization is it reduces the perception of risk. And this is how likely, when you ask a kid, do you think using marijuana is harmful? If you use marijuana on a regular basis, is it harmful? When that goes down, when fewer kids think it's harmful to use marijuana, more kids will use it. Now, of course, this invites the comparison that, are you telling us the only way you can keep kids from using marijuana is to lie about its harms? That's another subject. But in fact, in Washington State, the regular use is harmful lines have declined for every grade, 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th since 2004. And yet, the lifetime and past 30-day use has remained steady, and how hard it is for students to get their hands on cannabis has also remained rather steady. So the worst fears of legalization in Washington State have not come true. But then the worst fears never come true, do they? And that's why it's inevitable that marijuana legalization will continue on this rapid ascent in American political life. Because now it's no longer an abstract. Now the facts are out there. Now we can point to what will be 4 case studies. Maybe Ohio will be a 5. Maybe by 2016, there's 10 states that are legalized. And then there'll be plenty of data to look at to realize the sky didn't fall. The children didn't all turn into pot zombies roaming the streets in search of strains. And then we can have some sensible marijuana policy in this country. We're going to talk hemp with Bob Blake, an Oregon hemp farmer, when we return.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. The Russ Belville Show. Chat is for friends 18 and older. We expect our chat to be civil, mature, and free from excessive profanity. If you don't like these rules, there are approximately 6 billion other chat rooms with lower standards that you can visit.
Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
There's so much I worry about as a mom. Stephen Harper thinks that organized crime should continue to profit from marijuana prohibition. Imagine regulating marijuana like alcohol and cigarettes with a strong and clear educational message, making it more difficult for my kids and your kids to access. Drug dealers don't ask for ID. Stephen Harper does not have the kind of judgment we need to protect our children, authorized by the Normal Women's Alliance of Canada.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio. The cannabis community is a diverse set of people from all walks of life, conservative and liberal, black and white, straight and gay, rich and poor, and everyone in between. Learn more about the people we are freeing from adult marijuana prohibition in our Cannabis Community Chat.
Welcome back, everybody. Joining us on the phone, we have Bob Blake, a hemp farmer here in the great state of Oregon. And Bob, welcome to the show.
Well, Russ, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And is it true that you're one of the 13 licensees in this state?
Actually not, Russ. There may be a misunderstanding. I'm very supportive of the 13 licensees. My lawyer, Michael Hughes, is one of the 13, and his business partner also is one of the 13, and I'm highly supportive of them and have been involved in trying to keep the hemp program, the industrial hemp program, open and alive and vibrant in the state.
Yeah, and that's been subject to some controversy here in the state of Oregon. They stopped issuing new hemp permits, and maybe you can give us some insight on what's going on with Oregon's industrial hemp.
What we met with the state. Lindsay Yang, she's the woman in charge at the ODA, the Oregon Department of Agriculture, and she felt that the statutes and the rules, they had not been given sufficient direction from the legislature, and they felt that they needed to shut down the program, and so they've stopped issuing licenses. I was hoping that they would work in the gray zone to create more of an opportunity, and I just don't think the state is willing to do that. My gut instinct says there's a lot of discussion within the government, and I don't have any proof of this, between the various entities, the Oregon, the OHA, the Oregon Health Authority, the OLCC, the Liquor Commission, which is doing the commercial or the recreational or adult use, however we want to say it, the OHA, which has the medical dispensary and cannabis program. And when a lot of the hemp farmers began to start talking about growing hemp for industrial CBD use, I think that wasn't their vision. I think they wanted it to do for maybe material to make clothing or rope or other things. But I don't think they saw the hemp designed to be done for producing CBD.
Yeah, and that's an interesting twist in this, is that, for the longest time, we've kind of existed as if there are four camps of marijuana. There's recreational marijuana, there's medical cannabis, there's industrial hemp, and there's spiritual ganja, like these four, legs of a table or something, right? And science now is showing, I read a recent article that was talking about everything we know about sativa and indica is wrong. Like we really don't, genomically, we're starting to find out what these things really are. And now there's this talk about, hemp being harvested and maybe cultivated for CBD properties. There's some controversy around that as well. Can you give us your perspective?
I wish I was more of a scientist. I've been told by most that the CBD produced within hemp is virtually the same as what's produced in cannabis, if you will. I just think all of it has been has been artfully genetically combined. And I know that we have on our farm, our medical cannabis farm, we're growing a lot of quote Charlotte's Web, which is very high CBD content, and it certainly looks more like hemp than it does cannabis. But I don't know. I don't know scientifically. I'm depending on Michael Hughes, who has one of the licenses in Oregon, to help prove all this out, and we get it scientifically tested and see what the benefits are. We have certainly a number of patients in our dispensaries. I have one dispensary in Bend, another one hopefully opening in Hillsborough. I can't wait to see if we have the same effects with the hemp-produced CBD, if we can get it into the medical dispensaries.
Yeah, the controversies about hemp-derived CBD, there's some companies that are doing it now and say it's legal in all 50 states, and there's been a lot of some negative reports on this that I've covered. And Project CBD says that cannabidiol being extracted from hemp might be problematic in that hemp is so phytoremediative. It's going to suck up all the toxins in the soil and such that maybe that's not the most cost-effective way to go about it. What have you found as far as on that angle of it?
I honestly am not a hemp professional. I was out in the state trying to help the hemp industry. Mm-hmm. And to coexist with the cannabis industry. Okay. And I really don't have the science. It's something that I'm curiously interested in. But, Russ, I don't mean to suggest that this is I wish I knew more. I just can't answer that question. What I've tried to do is promote things politically in the state to open it up, because the benefits that we've seen with our patients, with our cancer patients, using pure concentrate oils is so significant that just a quick story. We've had 6 patients who've actively followed our protocol, and we don't produce all of the oil. Some of it we get from a really good gentleman named Toby Fueling. He produces some really fine oil, both heavy in CBD, kind of the diol, as well as THC, and he goes by the name HSO, and it's Organja. He's great company. We've given that to a number of our patients, and we produce our own oil as well. And what's really, really interesting is the 6 patients we've had, they all come to us with stage 4 cancer, yet they all are in remission now, every single one of them. That's what's amazing to me. And the dozens who say, I just don't know. My doctor doesn't say what to do. And I said, no, this is our experience. The other ones, and I say this publicly to everybody, every single other person who I've talked to who do not follow the protocol, God bless them, but they have died.
Well,
that's the most amazing thing I found about this entire industry. So if we can produce hemp and CBD on a widespread basis without the contaminants that you suggested, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
But I'd like to give the Stanley brothers a run for their money and have a large Oregon-produced CBD.
I would like to see that too, and Mr. Hughes is in the chat room as well, and points out that part of this would be not getting CBD from the stalks. Like, you wouldn't be harvesting male hemp to try to get it from stalks, but you'd be using female hemp, hemp flowers, non-intoxicating, because a lot of people have this misconception that hemp is male and pot is female. No, there's male and female pot and male and female hemp. It's just in pot you want females and hemp you want males, but maybe not for this flower situation if you're trying to get CBD out of it.
Correct. I agree. I thought that they were only, In fact, I know that Mr. Hughes Michael has called all the males out of his population.
Yeah,
that I do know. So.
And that's an interesting area of focus, and I'm really interested to see how that turns out, and if we are able to get medical benefit of it. Because to me, it helps to blur the lines. To make it so that we can get access to these things. And let me bring in Stephanie, who's in our studio right at the moment. And Stephanie's been working on this a little bit as well. What can you tell us about this?
Well, I've studied both on the industrial hemp side and on the medical cannabis side. What I wanted to point out was the recent studies that have come out about all of the components of the medicinal cannabis plant, and the fact that it's not CBDs alone that are necessarily helping. And if you look at Charlotte's Web and the analytics behind it, there are several more cannabinoids in that structure right there. All of these things work together symbiotically to provide healing effects to the body. So my question would go back to industrial hemp. Whenever I'm talking to patients, we talk about agriculture dietary hemp providing all of your amino acids, all of your omega-3s and your omega-6s in the exact portion. All of these, other health benefits are in this dietary hemp. So when I talk to patients, I usually suggest that they eat the hemp for the proteins and the stuff like that, but that they stick with the medical cannabis side. And I think that's kind of what he's talking about here when he's talking about getting it out of the stalk versus the seed, because the stalk is fiber. You're really going to be able to produce a potent CBD out of the part of the plant that is for making cannabis.
Yeah. Good point. Thanks, Stephanie. And anything you want to add to that, Bob?
Yeah, I would agree with Stephanie that total symbiotic or entourage effect is incredibly important. And what we've done with our oils is to try to combine it with as many plants as we can. The thing about the CBN and the CBN and the other CBGs and the other non-psychoactive cannabinoids, we just try to mix them up to get as broad a profile in our oils to give to patients. And I agree with everything Stephanie said. I just know that CBD is so hard to come by that hemp is just the potentially a huge source for it, and that's what I was really emphasizing is, gosh, can't we just get a huge source of it, because it's a damn hard plant to grow compared to a regular cannabis plant. It's just a very finicky, very sensitive plant.
We're speaking with Bob Blake, who is a businessman and dispensary owner. You say you've got, 2 dispensaries now, or is it just the one?
Well, 2 licensed, but we're waiting on a result in Hillsborough. The city council's voting on our dispensary. We have a distance issue with a active use park.
Gotcha. And October 1st is coming quickly. And how is that boding for you as being able to sell to all adults?
Well, the OHA has come out with specific requirements that you need to report and file certain papers with them. But it looks like if you meet those filing requirements and you follow their rules, you will be able to sell flour, just flour, to eligible people over the age of 21.
Right on. 1/4 ounce of flour, seedlings and seeds as well. Is that something you're looking to get out to the recreational community?
We're not as, in our dispensaries, we don't do as much of that as others. I think others who have larger grow operations and whatnot than I do probably will do that more than I will. I will provide for our patients and other clients the flour for sure.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for what you're doing and for investigating this very critical area of medical marijuana. This idea of hemp flower for CBD. I'm sure more people will be taking a look at that. Good luck, and let us know. Keep in touch. Let us know how it turns out.
And thank you for your work.
Oh.
But you, having just learned about you, you've done a tremendous job with everything you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Promoting the industry. So thank you.
Do what I can. And join me at the Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Actually, Saturday and Sunday at the Hilton in downtown Portland. We'll be recording the speakers and the panels, so I'll also have plenty of interviews for you when we get back. When we come back, we've got the anti-drug public service announcement of the day, followed by the debunking of Oregon's Project Sam. Sometimes it's like playing t-ball here.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio is brought to you by Sacred Serum, who is focused on creating elegant and sophisticated cannabis solutions through its line of dispensers and vaporizers that come preloaded with the world's finest cannabis concentrate. Sacred Serum's concentrate is made on pharmaceutical-grade supercritical CO2 extraction machines that use absolutely no butane or other toxic chemicals. The Vesica, the company's innovative new way to dab and frost, is now available in dispensaries across California. Sacred Serum, elegance and sophistication concentrated.
In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. This has been the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. To cure this sort of reefer madness, listen to the Russ Belville Show every weekday on 420radio.org. This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay, read the Weed Blog today.
Hi, I'm Trickster Phillips from St. Charles County, Missouri, and you're listening to 420radio.org.
Marijuana is an addictive drug which produces in its users insanity, criminality, and death. Marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind. If the hideous monster Frankenstein came face-to-face with the monster of marijuana, he dropped dead from fright.
You know, it's not easy countering 7 decades of propaganda in a 2-hour show, but let's try. It's time for the Russ Belville Show's Reefer Madness Debunked.
As I mentioned earlier in the show today, there now exists here in Oregon an affiliate of Kevin Sabet's Project Sam, the ironically named Smart Approaches to Marijuana, where the smart approach is to maintain adult marijuana prohibition but soften the penalties just a little bit. It's something I like to call the kinder, gentler drug war approach. And the head of this new prohibition group in a currently legalized marijuana state is named Randy Philbrick. I found myself arguing with him on Twitter via his @PDXRandyLee and @Sam_Oregon Twitter accounts. And at one point he states that, quote, "The fact still stands that teenage use of marijuana is up in Colorado since 2012. Oh, frightening. Well, folks, this is a rhetorical ploy that prohibitionists play with stats that I like to call the island maneuver. It's a type of cherry picking where they'll find a terribly scary statistic and present it all alone with no context. And I called him on it. And that's when he responded with, quote, Yeah, I know. You're going to throw up your stat sheet showing Louisiana being the highest among prohibition states, end quote. Well, yes, I am. I looked it up. It's the full data sets from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, and there's a comparison state by state from 2011-2012 to 2012-2013. So basically, the year after marijuana became legalized in Washington and Colorado, what happened? Now, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health has this data for all 50 states, and I went and took a look at where the greatest rise in monthly marijuana use was among the kids. And sure enough, the legalized state of Colorado did have an increase. And when we say teenagers, we're talking 12 to 17, right? Age 12 to age 17. Between 2011 and 2012, 10.4% of the teens, 12.47% of teens in Colorado used marijuana monthly. So over 1 out of 10. And then the year after legalization, the monthly use among 12 to 17-year-olds went up to 11.16%, about 1 out of 9. And if you compare those two, that's a relative increase from one year to the next of 6.59%. Oh, wow. So yeah, legalized marijuana in Colorado and teen marijuana use went up 6.59%. That's scary as hell, isn't it? That's terrifying. And in Washington, according to this chart, the teen monthly marijuana use increased 3.81%. So, according to Sam Oregon, we now have the smoking guns that show that legalization of marijuana leads to greater teen use. Except for one thing. Florida had a relative monthly increase of 6.97%. Florida had a greater rise in teenage monthly marijuana use than did Colorado. Now, last I checked, marijuana is illegal in Florida. In fact, it's so illegal that the possession of 21 grams, 3/4 of an ounce, is a felony. And yet, 6.97% more teens in Florida decided to use marijuana every month. They didn't legalize there. And in Utah, it had an increase of 4.49%, which bests the Washington rise of 3.81%. And last I checked, Utah is a highly religious state that seriously frowns on drug use. Also in the number of states, now there were, 12 states that had a rise in monthly marijuana use among the kids. 12. That means there was 38 of them where marijuana use went down. We'll get to that in a second. But of those 12 states where marijuana use went up among the kids, 4 of them were states that have prohibition. Florida, Utah, Tennessee, and Louisiana. 2 of them have legalization, and the other 6 are medical marijuana states. D.C. is not a state, but D.C., Rhode Island, Maine, New York, Michigan, and New Hampshire. And New Hampshire only went up barely. Very, very small increase. The United States average for teen monthly marijuana use was down 5.3%. So remember how all the prohibitionists talk about, if we legalize, we're sending the wrong message to the children. They'll get the message that marijuana use is cool and hip and not harmful, and more kids will use it. And yet, across the United States as a whole, 5% fewer kids are using it. Monthly, right? Now, the prohibitionists, when you give them these numbers, sometimes try to pivot on you. They'll say, yes, Florida and Utah went up, but Florida's monthly use rate is 7.52%. And Utah's is 5.35%. But in Colorado and Washington, it's 11.16% in Colorado and 9.81% in Washington State. So yeah, respectively with, the relative increase was greater in Florida than Colorado and greater in Utah than in Washington. But overall, far more kids in Colorado and Washington are using marijuana. So see, legalization makes more kids use marijuana. And in fact, if you look at the top 20 states based on monthly teen marijuana use, all 20 of those states are either legalized states or medical marijuana states. See? Except for one problem. Colorado and Washington and all the medical marijuana states in the top 20 always had greater use of marijuana by teens. It's not that marijuana reform makes marijuana more popular. It's that where marijuana is more popular, marijuana reform has more support. Of course, the places with more marijuana use legalized medical marijuana first. Wouldn't it be strange if it was the opposite, right? Like if it was like Utah and Kansas were the first states to legalize medical marijuana rather than California and Oregon? Of course not. It's going to be the places where they support marijuana and they have more use of marijuana, which therefore means they have more personal experience with marijuana and know it's not the demon reefers that Project Sam says they are. But if they want to focus on the top 20 states where teen monthly marijuana use is the greatest, maybe they should try to explain why 12 of those states monthly teen marijuana use declined. And the biggest declines were California, Alaska, and Massachusetts. 3 states that are very well known for being pot friendly had some of the greatest declines in monthly marijuana use. But Project Sam, they don't have an answer for stats and data. That's not how they work. Other things that are interesting to note. As I've been debating with the Project Sam guy, the other thing that I've pointed out is that this is not just a 1 year to 1 year thing that we can look at. We've got data from Monitoring the Future. Monitoring the Future is a survey they've been doing through the University of Michigan since 1975. So we got a long set of data to take a look at there. And in that data set, in 1980, now 1980 is about when I'm starting junior high school, okay? So in 1980, among 12th graders, high school seniors, in 1980, 72% of them drank at least once a month. 72% drank at least once a month. 21% smoked cigarettes every day, and 6% smoked marijuana every day. Okay, so almost 3 out of 4 high school seniors had drank at least monthly. Over 1 out of 5 had smoked cigarettes daily, and about 1 out of 17 was smoking pot daily. That was 1980. Then we had this whole war on drugs, Nancy Reagan, Just Say No. We had millions and billions of dollars spent. We locked people up for marijuana. We changed the drinking age for alcohol. We raised it. We had a mandatory 0.08 per se DUI instituted nationwide. We had the tobacco lawsuits that required cigarettes to be kept behind locked counters and for IDs to be checked, and for the funding of truthful advertisement about the harms of cigarette smoking. And so after that, since 1980, right, 35 years worth of effort on those 3 drugs, the rates of 12th grade use now, 37% have drank monthly. We went from 72% to 37% on drinking. Smoking cigarettes daily, 7%. It's actually like 6.7, something like that, but round it up, 7%. We went from 21% of high school seniors smoking cigarettes to 7%. And in 35 years on the marijuana efforts, 6%. We're still at 6%. We were at 6% in 1980. We're at 6% now after spending millions and millions and millions of dollars and locking up arresting, let's be clear, arresting 25 million people. Didn't change marijuana smoking amongst the high school kids one iota. So whatever we did to get drinking down to half its levels in 35 years, whatever we did to get cigarette smoking down to a third of its previous levels in 35 years, whatever those were, why don't we apply those to marijuana? Because apparently what we're doing now, locking up adults, arresting adults, ticketing adults, fining adults, forcing adults into rehab, making adults piss in a cup, hasn't changed high school senior marijuana use one bit. How about like alcohol, when we had an age at which people could be carded in licensed stores and all that? That made alcohol go down. With cigarettes, we had truthful advertising. We had identification. We had adults-only stores, locked them up. That made cigarette smoking go down. Hey, folks, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it,